All right, ready to dive into some crop circles?
Oh, absolutely. Always fascinated by these things.
Me too. It's wild, right? Like, where do we even begin? Eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, we got those.
Scientific studies.
We got those too.
Even some folklore sprinkled in. It's like a puzzle with pieces from all over the place.
It really is. And the explanations, well, let's just say they're all over the map too. Some are pretty fantastical.
Oh, I bet. So have you ever actually seen a crop circle in person?
Can't say I have. Have you?
Not yet, but it's definitely on my bucket list. But hey, even without seeing one in person, the whole thing just grabs you, you know? Like imagine 1678, this pamphlet comes out. It's called The Mowing Devil. It's this woodcut image, and it shows this like devilish figure making a crop circle in a field of oats.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. Crazy to think that even way back then, people were trying to explain these things.
Right. And it wasn't just some random artist's idea. The pamphlet claimed to be a true story. The farmer who found the circles said he saw weird lights the night before. So already you have this connection to something strange and unknown.
It's like the mystery started right there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until much later that the scientific community really took notice.
Yeah, like in the 1880s with that English scientist John Capron.
Right, Capron. He thought maybe it was some kind of cyclonic wind causing the circles. But even he admitted there was something about them that just didn't quite fit, you know.
Almost like a UFO or UAP, the way we talk about them today.
Exactly. He even suggested that.
It's pretty wild to think about scientists back then considering those possibilities.
Now fast forward to the 1960s and things really explode. Suddenly crop circles are everywhere and they're getting more and more complex, no more just simple circles.
Oh, yeah. You start seeing these intricate patterns, these massive designs spanning hundreds of feet, and they're popping up all over the globe. I read about this guy, George Pedley, in Australia. In 1966, he claimed he saw something rise out of a lagoon, and then it created a geometric design right there in the reeds.
That's a classic case. Many consider it to be the beginning of the modern crop circle phenomenon.
Yeah.
And it really highlights how things escalated from just simple circles to these incredibly complex formations.
Like whoever or whatever was doing it was getting more and more, I don't know, artistic, bolder.
Definitely. And faster, too. I mean, some of these formations appear overnight. Imagine the time and effort it would take humans to create something like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a global art project, but with an unknown artist. But of course, not everyone buys into the whole alien theory.
Oh, right. There are plenty of skeptics out there. Some people say it's all a hoax, just elaborate pranks.
I've heard about those guys, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley, claiming they made a bunch of crop circles with just ropes and planks.
Yeah, they became kind of famous for it.
So, like, the original crop circle artists?
Something like that. And, I mean, they might have been behind some of the simpler ones, but a lot of researchers say there's no way they could explain the really complex ones.
Right, it'd be like saying you can doodle a stick figure, so you must have painted the Mona Lisa, too.
Exactly. There's a huge difference in skill and precision. And the fact that many of these appear overnight, seemingly out of nowhere, that just adds to the mystery.
Yeah, how could a group of people do that without anyone noticing?
It's a good question. And it leads us back to, well, if it's not humans, then what could it be?
All right, so spill it. What are some of the leading theories out there?
Well, of course, there's the one we've been dancing around. Aliens. A lot of people believe that these formations could be messages from extraterrestrial intelligence, maybe even landing sites.
Okay, I can see the appeal of that one. But let's say it's aliens. Why wouldn't they just land on the White House lawn and say hello? Why go through all this trouble with the crop circles?
Maybe it's a test.
A test? Like what kind of test?
Maybe they're trying to see how we react. Or maybe they're trying to communicate in a way that won't scare us.
So like a cosmic game of, can you decipher the alien message?
Something like that. It definitely makes you think about the possibilities, doesn't it?
It does. But there's another theory out there, one that's maybe even weirder. Time travelers.
Time travelers.
Yeah, like what if these formations are messages from the future? Landing codes or navigational markers left by people who can travel through time.
Now, that's a mind-bending thought.
Right. But no matter who or what is making them, the thing that really gets me is the precision of the designs. We're talking about intricate patterns, mathematical concepts. It's not just random scribbles. There's real intelligence behind them.
Absolutely. And that's where the scientific research gets really interesting. Back in the 1990s, there was this biophysicist, W.C. Levengood, who made some groundbreaking discoveries. He started looking at the plants themselves, the ones inside the crop circles, and what he found was pretty wild.
I've heard about Levengood. What exactly did he find? Were the plants, like, bent in some weird way or broken differently?
It was more than that. He found unusual changes within the plants themselves, changes that suggested they were exposed to some kind of energy, maybe even radiation.
Hold on, radiation? In a field of wheat? That doesn't sound like something you'd expect to find just lying around.
I know, right? It's pretty strange. But it suggests that maybe there's more to this than just some guys with ropes and boards. Maybe something more high-tech is involved, something that could explain those precise designs and the speed at which they appear.
So like alien tech.
Possibly. But here's the really cool part. Levengood's work wasn't just about explaining crop circles. His findings actually led to a new technology that uses electrical pulses to make plants grow faster.
Wait, are you serious? So studying these mysterious circles led to an agricultural breakthrough.
It did. Who would have thought? It just shows you that even the weirdest phenomena can sometimes lead to real-world benefits.
Okay, so we've got these lights, possible radiation, and now a plant growth hack. This is getting pretty wild. Anything else Levengood found that was interesting?
Oh, yeah. He also found that the plants inside the circles often grew at a different rate compared to those outside.
So it's not just about the design of the circle, it's like something's actually affecting the way the plants grow afterward.
Right. Almost like the process of creating the circle, whatever it is, leaves some kind of lasting impact.
Okay, I'm officially spooked out. But I'm also super intrigued. Give me one more crazy detail before we wrap up this part.
Right. How about ghost formations? Have you heard of those?
No. But the name sounds creepy.
They are kind of eerie. Imagine this. A farmer harvests his crops, and then the next year, a faint outline of the crop circle reappears in the same spot, even though there are new crops growing there.
So like a phantom crop circle?
Exactly. It's like the energy of the formation is somehow imprinted on the land itself.
Okay, that's officially the weirdest thing I've heard all day.
I know, it's pretty freaky. Some researchers think those ghost formations are caused by lingering effects of the radiation Levengood found.
So like an energy echo?
Yeah, something like that.
Wow. This is like a real-life sci-fi mystery unfolding right before our eyes. So many questions, so few answers, but hey, I'm definitely hooked.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle that keeps you coming back for more. It's like we're peeking into this whole other realm, you know?
Yeah.
And the deeper we go with these crop circles, the more we realize how many different areas they connect to.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, you've got biophysics, of course,
Yeah.
with Levengood's work. But then you start getting into cryptography, trying to decode the patterns.
Yeah.
And then there's even xenolinguistics.
You know what?
Xenolinguistics, it's the study of alien languages. I mean, if these formations are messages, we need a way to understand them, right?
Oh. So we're talking about potentially communicating with aliens. That's next level.
It is. And it's like this one phenomena is pushing us to think in all these different directions. It's pretty exciting.
I can see why you're so into this stuff. So, okay, back to the science. We talked about Levengood's research, but what about other scientists? Have they found anything that backs up his theories? Or maybe something completely different?
There's been a ton of research, actually. Some studies seem to support Levengood's findings, while others offer different explanations. Scientists have been analyzing soil samples, plant structures, looking for anything unusual.
What have they found?
Well, some studies mention finding weird stuff like changes in the magnetic properties of the soil, or even traces of isotopes that don't usually belong there.
Isotopes. Those are like different versions of atoms, right?
Yeah, exactly. And finding those in a crop circle is pretty weird. But a lot of these findings are still debated in the scientific community.
Why is that? Is it because some scientists just don't want to believe in anything that sounds too out there?
I wouldn't say it's about being closed-minded. It's more about sticking to the scientific method. Well, to really prove something, you need to be able to test it right. Control the variables, replicate the results. But with crop circles, that's nearly impossible. We can't exactly recreate the conditions under which they appear.
So it's like trying to solve a mystery without knowing who the suspects are or what the weapon was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole issue of hoaxers, which makes things even more complicated.
Right, because if you're trying to study the effects of some unknown energy or whatever, you need to be sure you're looking at a real crop circle, not one made by some pranksters.
That's the challenge. And it's why researchers have come up with all these criteria to try to identify genuine formations.
Like what?
They look for things like flattened but unbroken stems, specific changes in the plant's nodes, swirling patterns, stuff like that. Signs that it wasn't just crushed by something heavy.
So it's not just about whether the crops are flat, it's about how they're flattened.
Right. And some researchers believe that the energy involved in creating a genuine crop circle leaves behind traces that hoaxers just can't replicate.
So like subtle clues within the formation itself that point to something unexplainable.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But even if we could say for sure which ones are real and which ones are fake, we're still left with the question of what's causing the real ones.
The million-dollar question, right? Science can help us analyze the evidence, but maybe it can't give us all the answers.
I think you're onto something there. Maybe we need to look at this from all sorts of angles, scientific, philosophical, maybe even spiritual.
Yeah, like maybe the answer lies somewhere in between all those different perspectives.
Exactly. It's about keeping an open mind and exploring all the possibilities.
Okay, so I'm ready for a change of pace. Let's talk about some specific crop circles, the ones that really capture people's imaginations. What are some of the most famous or intriguing cases you've come across?
Well, one that always stands out is the Milk Hill Formation from 1991 in England.
Mm-hmm.
It's super intriguing because there's an eyewitness account that goes along with it, and maybe even some photographic evidence.
Ooh, I love a good eyewitness story. What happened?
So there was this photographer named Steve Alexander. He was filming the Milk Hill Formation from a distance, and he claims he caught something strange on film.
What? Like what?
A weird light, kind of metallic looking. Some witnesses described it as an orb of light, and it supposedly flew right over a tractor that was working in a nearby field.
Wait, so he actually got it on camera. That's wild. What did they think it was?
That's the mystery. Some people think it could have been some kind of UFO. Others say it might have been something called intelligent plasma. Basically a form of energy that's, well, intelligent.
Intelligent plasma. Now, that's something I haven't heard before.
It's a pretty wild concept.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a lot of crop circle researchers say that sightings of orbs or balls of light are pretty common around these formations.
So it's almost like these lights are somehow involved in the creation process.
Yeah, maybe they're the tools, or maybe they are the creators themselves. Who knows?
Oh, okay, this is blowing my mind. Give me another case.
All right, how about the Julia Set Formation? That one appeared in England in 1996, and it's a real head-scratcher.
Why? What's so special about that one?
It's basically a visual representation of a complex fractal pattern, named after a mathematician, Gaston Julia.
Wait, so someone put a math equation in a field of wheat?
Pretty much. And it was incredibly detailed and precise. It would have taken a huge amount of planning and effort to create something like that, especially considering it appeared overnight.
Overnight? No way. There's just no way a group of people could pull that off without anyone noticing.
That's what makes it so puzzling. It really makes you wonder if we're dealing with something beyond human capabilities.
Yeah, something with some serious tech, maybe?
Possibly.
Okay, I need one more. I'm on a crop circle high right now.
All right, this one might be the wildest yet. It's called the Arecibo Answer. It appeared in England in 2001 near this place called Chilbolton Observatory.
Chilbolton Observatory, that's where they study space, right?
Exactly. And it gets its name because it seemed to be a response to a message that we, as in humanity, sent out into space back in 1974 from the Arecibo telescope.
The Arecibo telescope? The one that sadly collapsed a few years ago?
That's the one. The message we sent was basically a coded message about us. Our DNA, our solar system, information about the Arecibo telescope itself. It was like a giant hello from Earth sent out into the cosmos.
And someone or something responded through a crop circle.
That's what it looks like. The Arecibo Answer was incredibly similar to our original message, but with some interesting changes.
Like what?
Well, for example, the DNA structure shown in the crop circle was slightly different from ours. And instead of showing our solar system, it depicted a different configuration of planets.
So it's like they received our message, understood it, and then sent back their own version with some modifications to show that they get it.
It's a pretty amazing idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, some people say it's just a coincidence or a hoax, but for those who believe in the possibility of alien communication, it's a really compelling case.
It's like something you'd see in a movie, but it happened in real life. It really makes you wonder what else is out there.
It does. And if it is a real response, what are they trying to tell us?
Yeah, what's the message? Are they just saying hi back, or is there something deeper going on?
Maybe they're trying to communicate in a way that doesn't overwhelm us. Or maybe they're testing our ability to understand them.
Like a cosmic intelligence test?
Something like that.
Wow. This whole thing is just mind-blowing. And the more we learn, the more questions we seem to have.
That's the beauty of it, I think. It's a mystery that keeps unfolding.
You know what's really striking me? It's like the artistry of these crop circles. They're not just like random shapes thrown together. There's a real sense of design, of symbolism.
I know what you mean. It's like some kind of visual language, almost like ancient hieroglyphics, but on a giant scale.
Right. So what are some of the most common symbols they use? Are we talking about circles, triangles, stars? What do they represent?
Well, you see a lot of those basic geometric shapes. And they often do have symbolic meanings, like circles, for example. They're often associated with ideas like unity, wholeness, connection.
Yeah, I can see that. And spirals. I feel like I see those a lot in crop circle photos.
Spirals can represent things like growth, evolution, the cyclical nature of time.
Okay, that makes sense. And triangles.
Triangles often symbolize strength, stability, the power of three.
It's like they're using a visual shorthand to get their ideas across. Tapping into these universal symbols that resonate across cultures, maybe even across different species.
Exactly. And then you get into some even more complex patterns, like mandalas and fractals. Those are often associated with sacred geometry, those underlying patterns of the universe.
Yeah, the fractal ones are mind-blowing. The level of detail is just incredible. It's hard to imagine how anyone could create something like that, let alone overnight in a field.
It's truly amazing. But even if we can appreciate the beauty and complexity, the big question is, how do we figure out what they mean? Is there like a crop circle Rosetta Stone out there somewhere?
Right. Is there some kind of key to unlock this secret language?
I wish it were that easy. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to interpreting these things.
Okay, so what are some of the approaches people are using?
Well, some researchers believe that the meaning is more intuitive, something you feel, rather than something you can logically understand.
So it's not just about decoding the symbols, it's about feeling the energy of the formation.
Exactly. Some people meditate on the patterns or use things like dowsing rods to try to connect with the energy of the crop circle.
Okay, that's pretty far out there.
Yeah.
But interesting.
It is. But then there are others who believe the meaning might be hidden in the math, in the relationships between the shapes, or their alignment with the stars. They use computer programs and algorithms to try to crack the code.
So it's like a blend of art, math, and maybe even spirituality.
I think that's a good way to put it. But in the end, I think the meaning we find in a crop circle is a personal one, based on our own beliefs, experiences, and how we interpret the world around us.
I like that. It's like an interactive experience where we're not just passive observers, but we're actively trying to understand what we're seeing.
Right. And that leads to the idea that maybe these formations are meant to trigger something within us, to expand our consciousness and help us connect to something bigger than ourselves.
So maybe the message isn't something that can be translated into words, but rather a feeling, an experience, a shift in our awareness.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not about getting all the answers, but about embracing the mystery and allowing ourselves to be transformed by it.
Well, I have to say, this has completely changed how I think about crop circles. I used to see them as just these cool patterns and fields, but now, I don't know, it's like they represent something more, something about human potential, our connection to the universe, maybe even our search for meaning.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's a journey of exploration, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm just getting started. You've given me so much to think about.
Well, if you're looking for more information, there are tons of resources out there. Books, documentaries, websites. There's a whole community of people who are fascinated by these things.
I bet. And who knows, maybe one day I'll even make it to England to see some of these formations in person.
That would be incredible. Just remember, keep an open mind and trust your intuition.
Will do. Thanks again for this incredible deep dive into the world of crop circles.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, if you could design a crop circle, what would it look like? What message would you send to the universe? Think about it. Until next time, keep looking up, keep exploring, and never stop wondering.